प्रिया की आंखें खुली, पसीने से तर, सांसें तेज चल रही थीं। फिर से वही सपना, बर्फीले पहाड़ों के बीच एक प्राचीन मंदिर, दीवारों पर शीशे जड़े थे, उन शीशों में अंधेरा नाच रहा था।
क्या हुआ प्रिया?
वही सपना मीरा, वही मंदिर।
मीरा को चिंता होने लगी। प्रिया के सपने कभी खाली नहीं जाते थे।
मीरा पुरानी पांडुलिपि में डूबी हुई थी। अक्षर धुंधले थे, सदियों पुराने। धीरे धीरे उसके चेहरे पर एक अजीब सी मुस्कान फैल गई। पा लिया, उसने फुसफुसाते हुए कहा, इसमें दर्पण के बारे में लिखा है।
क्या लिखा है?
यह कोई साधारण दर्पण नहीं है, ये श्राप दिखाता है, और दर्पण देखने वाले के सबसे गहरे डर को भी।
हवा में ठंडक बढ़ गई थी, परछाइयां लंबी होती जा रही थीं, मानो उन्हें कोई खींच रहा हो। टीम अपनी यात्रा की तैयारी में जुट गई।
हमें सावधान रहना होगा, विजय ने कहा। उसकी आवाज तनावपूर्ण थी। यह जगह खतरनाक है।
मुझे एक अजीब सी घबराहट हो रही है, रिया ने कहा। उसकी आवाज कांप रही थी।
रात गहरी होती गई। आसमान में बादल घने होते जा रहे थे और चांद की रोशनी भी धुंधली पड़ने लगी थी। चारों ओर एक अजीब सी खामोशी छाई हुई थी, जैसे कोई अनहोनी होने वाली हो। प्रिया फिर से बेचैन हो गई। उसकी आंखों में नींद नहीं थी और दिल में एक अजीब सी घबराहट थी। वह बार बार करवटें बदल रही थीं, लेकिन चैन नहीं मिल रहा था। उसने मीरा को अपने सपने के बारे में बताया। मीरा, मुझे फिर वही सपना आया, प्रिया ने धीमी आवाज में कहा। एक अंधेरी जगह जहां कुछ भी साफ नहीं दिखता। शीशे में मुझे बस एक खालीपन दिखता है मीरा, एक ऐसा खालीपन जो दिल को दहला देता है, जैसे वहां कुछ छुपा हो जो हमें देख रहा हो। एक ऐसा खालीपन जिसमें न तो तारे हैं, न ही रोशनी, सिर्फ परछाइयां, और उन परछाइयों में भी एक अजीब सी हलचल है, जैसे वे जीवित हों।
क्या तुमने कभी ऐसा सपना देखा है मीरा? प्रिया ने पूछा। उसकी आवाज में डर और उलझन साफ झलक रही थी।
मीरा चुपचाप उसकी बातें सुनती रही। उसकी आंखों में भी एक अजीब सी चमक थी, जैसे वह भी कुछ छुपा रही हो। उसे अंदाजा नहीं था कि यह सब क्या मतलब रखता है, लेकिन उसके मन में भी एक डर बैठ गया था। क्या यह सपना सच हो सकता है? लेकिन उसे एहसास था कि कुछ बहुत बुरा होने वाला है। एक ऐसा एहसास जो उसकी रूह को कंपा रहा था। क्या यह सपना एक चेतावनी है या सिर्फ एक भ्रम? The team gathered their gear, their faces grim under the flickering lamplight. Each member was lost in their thoughts, the weight of the mission pressing heavily on their shoulders. The room was filled with a tense silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of equipment and the soft murmur of whispered farewells.
We'll be traveling through the night. The forest is dense and the path is barely visible, so stay close and keep your flashlights on. The darkness can be disorienting, but we must press on if we are to reach our destination by dawn. The air will be thin, the paths treacherous. The mountain trail is known for its sudden drops and loose rocks. We need to be extra cautious, especially with the fog rolling in. One misstep could be disastrous.
Vijay, ever the pragmatist, checked their supplies one last time. He meticulously went through each item, ensuring nothing was left behind. His methodical nature was a source of comfort to the team, knowing that they were in capable hands. He handed Priya a thick jacket, his eyes full of unspoken concern. The temperature would drop significantly as they ascended, and he wanted to make sure she was prepared. Priya accepted the jacket with a grateful nod, understanding the gravity of the gesture, adjusting backpack. Make sure your straps are tight and secure. We can't afford any mishaps with our gear. Double check everything now, because once we're on the move, there won't be any turning back. Priya, her face pale but resolute, adjusted her backpack. She had been through countless challenges before, but this mission felt different. The stakes were higher and the risks greater. Yet, she was determined to see it through. She knew the dangers that lay ahead, but fear had no place in her heart, not anymore. The journey would test their limits, both physically and mentally, but she was ready to face whatever came their way, not when the fate of so many hung in the balance. The team stood together, a united front against the unknown. They took a moment to gather their resolve, knowing that their actions in the coming hours could change everything. With a final nod to each other, they stepped into the darkness, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As they stepped out into the biting cold, a shiver ran down Priya's spine. The night was unforgiving, the air thick with an eerie silence that seemed to amplify every creak and rustle. Priya pulled her coat tighter around her, but it did little to ward off the chill that seeped into her bones. She glanced at Meera, who seemed equally affected by the cold, her breath visible in the frosty air. The path ahead was barely visible, shrouded in darkness and mist. Every step felt like a journey into the unknown, each sound a potential threat lurking in the shadows. The wind howled like a banshee, whipping strands of her hair across her face. It was as if the elements themselves were conspiring against them, making their journey even more treacherous. The howling wind carried with it whispers of forgotten tales and lost souls, adding to the sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. Priya could feel the weight of those stories pressing down on her, each gust of wind a reminder of the dangers that lay ahead. She tried to shake off the feeling, but it clung to her like a second skin. The once familiar mountains now loomed before them, menacing and cold. Their jagged peaks seemed to pierce the sky, casting long, ominous shadows over the landscape. These mountains, which had once been a source of comfort and adventure, now felt like a barrier, a formidable obstacle that they had to overcome. The path through the mountains was narrow and treacherous, with loose rocks and hidden crevices that could easily spell disaster. Priya's heart raced as she thought about the journey ahead, the uncertainty gnawing at her resolve.
Don't worry, we'll find the sanctuary. We'll break the curse. Meera's voice was steady, but Priya could hear the underlying tension. It was a promise, a declaration of their determination to see this through, no matter the cost. The sanctuary was their only hope, a place of refuge and salvation that held the key to breaking the curse that had plagued their lives. They had come too far to turn back now, and Meera's words were a beacon of hope in the darkness.
Meera, sensing Priya's unease, placed a reassuring hand on her arm. The gesture was small, but it spoke volumes. It was a reminder that they were in this together, that they could draw strength from each other. Priya felt a surge of gratitude for Meera's unwavering support. Despite the fear and uncertainty, they had each other, and that was something to hold on to. The bond between them was unbreakable, forged in the fires of their shared struggles and determination. But even as she spoke, a knot of dread tightened in her own stomach. The fear was palpable, a living, breathing entity that seemed to grow with each passing moment. Meera tried to push it down to focus on the task at hand, but it was always there, lurking in the back of her mind. She knew that they were walking a fine line between hope and despair, and the outcome was far from certain. The weight of their mission pressed heavily on her shoulders, but she refused to let it break her. The shadows seemed to writhe and twist around them, hungry and alive. They moved with a life of their own, creating shapes and forms that played tricks on the mind. Every shadow seemed to hide a secret, a hidden danger waiting to pounce. The alleyways and corners were filled with these living shadows, making the journey even more perilous. Priya and Meera had to stay vigilant, their senses on high alert as they navigated through the darkness. The sense of dread was ever present, a constant reminder of the stakes and the dangers that lay ahead. With Vijay leading the way, they plunged into the heart of the mountains. Each step took them further from the world they knew, deeper into the realm of myth and legend. As darkness enveloped them like a shroud, they could almost feel the ancient evil watching them, waiting for them to make a mistake. The journey had begun,